I still remember the night. My best friend Emily vanished into thin air at our 5th grade sleepover. We had been planning this party for weeks, and it was supposed to be the most epic slumber party ever, complete with a midnight feast of leftover pizza and a scary movie marathon. But as we settled in around the TV, watching The Exorcist for the millionth time, I began to feel an unsettling presence lurking just beyond our campsite. At first, I dismissed it as mere imagination, but then I saw her, Emily's ghostly figure materializing behind us, her eyes black as coal, and a malevolent grin spreading across her face. I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat as the other girls around me seemed completely oblivious to this supernatural spectacle. It was as if they had all been numbed into a zombie-like state, their faces expressionless as they continued to watch the movie with an air of morbid fascination. I felt like I was trapped in some sort of twisted nightmare from which I couldn't awaken. And then, just as suddenly as she appeared, Emily vanished, leaving behind only a faint scent of lavender perfume and a single, whispery phrase that echoed through my mind. "You're next." As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I began to experience these recurring visions, each one more vivid and disturbing than the last. In one vision, I was trapped in a never-ending loop of repetition, reliving the same terrifying moment over and over, with no escape in sight. In another, I saw myself standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest, the trees looming above me like skeletal fingers, as an unseen force began to whisper my name, beckoning me deeper into the woods, further into the abyss. My parents grew increasingly concerned as I began to exhibit more and more bizarre behavior. They would find me pacing back and forth in front of the TV, rewatching that same Exorcist tape over and over, trying to will the visions away. But no matter how many times I watched it, the images only seemed to intensify until finally they became so real that I could almost touch them. And then, one fateful night, I woke up to find a message scrawled across my bedroom wall in cold, white letters. "I'll be watching you." As I stumbled out of bed, my heart racing with terror, I caught a glimpse of something that made my blood run cold. A photograph of Emily, taken at our sleepover all those years ago. But this time, her eyes were different. They seemed to hold a malevolent intelligence, as if she had been waiting for me all along, biding her time until the perfect moment to strike. And then, just as I thought things couldn't get any worse, I heard my name being whispered in the darkness outside, low and husky, like a lover's caress. And so I went out into that night, driven by a morbid curiosity, determined to uncover the truth behind Emily's disappearance and my own increasingly disturbing visions. The streets were deserted, the moon hanging low over the rooftops like a ghostly galleon. I walked for what felt like hours, the silence broken only by the soft crunch of gravel beneath my feet, until I stumbled upon an old, dilapidated mansion on the outskirts of town. It loomed above me like a monolith, its windows boarded up and dark, as if it had been waiting patiently for me all these years, a silent sentinel guarding secrets that I was about to uncover. And as I pushed open the creaking front door, a chill ran down my spine, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. For in that moment, I knew I was not alone. I stepped across the threshold, my eyes adjusting to the dim light within, and found myself in a grand foyer with chandeliers shrouded in dust, their crystals dulled by years of grime. The air inside reeked of decay, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down upon me, as if every moment since Emily's disappearance had been leading up to this very instant. A chill ran through me, and I wrapped my arms tightly around myself, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that settled in the pit of my stomach. As I ventured deeper into the mansion, I began to notice subtle hints at the lives of those who once called this place home. A faded photograph on a mantelpiece, its subjects' faces scratched out with a sharp fingernail. An antique music box playing a haunting melody in the corner of the room, its lid slightly ajar, and a child's scribble on the wall, which seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. I followed the trail of these clues through various rooms, each one revealing a new layer of the mansion's dark past. A nursery where children once laughed and played, now silenced by the echoes of whispers and screams that lingered in the shadows. A dining hall where families gathered for feasts and celebrations, now frozen in time, like a scene from a macabre tableau. And then I found a door hidden behind a tattered tapestry, which creaked ominously as I pushed it open. A narrow corridor stretched out before me, lined with doors that seemed to lead nowhere, except for one at the far end that appeared to be slightly ajar. My heart pounding in my chest, I approached the door and pushed it open, revealing a room that made my blood run cold. Inside, I saw Emily, sitting on a bed, her eyes vacant, her skin deathly pale and a small smile playing on her lips. But as I took a step forward, I realized she wasn't alone. A figure sat beside her, its presence radiating an aura of malevolence that made my skin crawl. And then the figure slowly turned its head towards me, revealing eyes that were identical to mine. The eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I was frozen in terror, unsure if this was some twisted manifestation of my own subconscious or a genuine attempt to communicate. The figure's gaze seemed to bore into my soul, as if it knew every dark secret I'd ever kept hidden. Emily's smile grew wider, her eyes never leaving mine, and I felt myself being drawn towards her, as if an unseen force was pulling me into this nightmarish realm. As I took another step forward, the figure began to move, its presence seeming to fill the entire room. I could feel its weight, like a physical force pressing down upon me. Emily's eyes never wavered, and she reached out a pale hand towards me, beckoning me closer. The air was heavy with an unseen malevolence, making it hard to breathe. Suddenly, the figure spoke in a voice that sent shivers down my spine, its words echoing off the walls like a cold, mirthless laughter. "Welcome home," it said. "We've been waiting." I tried to speak, but my voice was trapped in my throat, as if frozen by fear. The figure's eyes seemed to burn with an otherworldly intensity, and I felt myself being drawn closer, into the heart of this twisted world. As I stumbled forward, Emily's smile grew wider still, her eyes sparkling with a mad gleam. I felt like I was walking towards some terrible truth, one that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my own identity. And then, just as I reached the bed, the figure spoke again, its voice dripping with an unnerving familiarity. "You've been looking for me," it said. "You've been searching for answers." My mind reeled in confusion, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of questions. What did it mean? And what lay beyond this door, into the depths of my own subconscious? The figure's words hung in the air, echoing through the empty corridors of my mind, as if summoning some long-forgotten memory. I felt a shiver run down my spine, and my legs trembled beneath me. Suddenly, the bed seemed to tilt, and I found myself staring into Emily's eyes, her smile now twisted and grotesque. She reached out a hand, and I recoiled, but it was too late. She had already touched the surface of my skin, leaving behind an icy sting that spread like a rash through my veins. The room began to spin, and I felt myself being pulled back into the dark recesses of my own childhood, where the shadows whispered secrets in my ear. And then I saw it. The old photograph, tattered and worn, with a face that was both familiar and yet utterly strange. The face in the photograph began to shift, its features melting like wax, as Emily's voice whispered a single, chilling word in my ear. "Mine."